Some Canadians across the country held Remembrance Day ceremonies today, ahead of the official day tomorrow. On the 11th hour of the 11th day of the 11th month, Canadians pause to remember our veterans. Manisa Donabalan joining us live from the newsroom with more on this. What's happening today and what's expected for tomorrow, Manisa?
Hey Matt, schools held their ceremonies today, but just as it happens every year, Remembrance Day events will be taking place from coast to coast tomorrow. You can visit the Royal Canadian Legion's website to find the ceremonies closest to you. Wearing poppies, displaying wreaths, and a moment of silence, students at schools commemorated the important day today. Remembrance Day dates back to 1919, when it was called Armistice Day, to commemorate the Armistice Agreement that ended the First World War at 11 a.m. on November 11th in 1918.
So this was the first truly grand international war in a century, and the casualties were absolutely horrendous. I mean, well, Canada, which had a population of only about 6 million. We lost over 60,000 killed in the war.
More than 2.3 million Canadians served throughout history, and more than 118,000 died. More than 1 million Canadians and Newfoundlanders served in the Second World War alone. With only 9,200 veterans of the Second World War and Korean War still living in Canada, many are worried about keeping their memories and history alive.
We've all said this many times, is that the history books, as a matter of fact, if you look in the Ontario curriculum, the Ontario history book, you'll be lucky to find one paragraph at the end of some chapter regarding the Korean War. So people know very little about it. And so we feel as veterans, we have the opportunity to go down and talk to children and to adults.
The fear of losing touch with history is something many are concerned about as we move further away from the past.
We're losing that personal connection with the wars and what it meant. I grew up in the 1950s and the 60s, and everybody's grandfather had served in the First World War. And everybody's father had served in the Second World War. And so I remember when I was in university in the 1970s, they didn't even really teach the world wars very much because it was still seen as being current events. You know, people were still so close to it.
Poppies are worn as the official symbol of remembrance because the flowers grew on the battlefields after World War I. It's worn on the left side over the heart. Money from the poppy campaign is used to fund a number of programs to help veterans with things like food, medical needs, and emergency shelter. The Legion has highlighted that Remembrance doesn't intend to glorify war, but rather serve as a reminder of what was done to protect the nation's democratic freedoms and way of life. Tomorrow, among the many events that will be held across the country, is the National Remembrance Day ceremony in Ottawa, which begins at 10:30 in the morning. Some historians say the Canadian government has provided support for veterans, but what they need more recently is more physical support, like care in the long run.